UFC 291 this Saturday night from Salt Lake City, Utah, from, I believe it's called the Delta Center now, but we got in the main event for the vacant BMF Championship, Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Justin Gaethje. Obviously, the BMF Championship is something that you either really like or you really hate. I guess I'm in the middle, which kind of contradicts the statement I just made, but it's just, I don't think it's the best idea, but I get it brings attention to the sport, and this fight this Saturday night is really good. So I just want to see Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje fight. I don't give a damn about the BMF Championship, and this is why the BMF Championship does not make any sense. I'm going to go on a quick rant right now before we get into the predictions. The BMF Championship makes no sense because Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, the winner of this fight, will likely fight for a world championship next. The same exact thing happened when Jorge Masvidal won the BMF Championship the first time around. He won the BMF Championship, then he lost to Usman. But Kamaru Usman was not made the BMF champion if, again, like, the title should always be on the line. So if Masvidal lost to Usman, okay, lost him twice, so Usman's new champion. Usman beats Burns, or that was before, yeah, he beats Burns. He beats Masvidal again. He beats Colby. Then he loses to Leon. Leon should be the current BMF champion. Whatever, they're saying it's Masvidal still, and now it's vacant, and it's going into this Poirier-Gaethje fight. However, the BMF Championship will have the same exact problem it had when it was in the welterweight division. It's that, okay, this championship is going to get kind of unified with the World Championship because Poirier-Gaethje, the winner, is going to fight the winner, likely, of Makhachev Oliveira. I'm just saying it's a dumb concept, but the fight is really good. The co-main event, Alex Pereira returns, and he's now in the light heavyweight division taking on Jan Blachowicz. The main card stacks. You got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Michelle Pereira. You've got Tony Ferguson, Bobby Green, and Kevin Holland, Michael Chiesa, and my goodness, Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, on the undercard as well. It is a stacked 12-fight card. And folks, if you haven't yet, though, make sure that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. Last week, we posted our closer look into the career of Tom Aspinall. I don't know if people just didn't see it, because, I don't know, maybe YouTube decided, no one gets to see this video, because like 300 people watched it. It's like the same type video I made with the Dricus Duplessis one that got like 9,000 people watched. I don't know what happened, but if you want to watch, go watch it. Aspinall's coming off his big first round knockout victory. Likely no closer look this week because kind of don't want to spend 15 hours on a video that nobody watches. That's just the truth, I'm being honest. And tomorrow we will have our Bellator versus Ryzen 2 predictions coming at you in the main event. In the Grand Prix for the lightweight division, we have got AJ McKee taking on Patricky Pitbull, Kyoji Horiguchi fighting for the vacant flyweight championship for Bellator. Again, the future of Bellator is up in the air. I think the PFL is likely going to be buying Bellator soon, but I think if the PFL buys it, Bellator will remain a promotion, I think. So these fights are still meaningful. It's coming from you, coming at you from Japan, and we will have that prediction video coming at you tomorrow night. But let's get on to this 12-fight card with the UFC. Kicking it off, we will have Matthew Semelsberger taking on Uros Medic. Originally, this fight was supposed to be Semelsberger versus Johan Lainus. Lainus pulled out, and now Semelsberger will get Uros Medic instead. And for Medic, 8-1 so far in his professional career. His last fight being that win over Omar Morales. He was coming off his first loss in his professional career, which of course was the fight where he lost to Jalen Turner. But so far in the UFC, Uros Medic 2-1. The first fight being a win over Alan Cruz, where he completely shut that man down. UFC 259 on a pay-per-view undercard. Blachowicz Adesanya went in there, knocked out Alan Cruz in the first round. It only took 1 minute and 40 seconds. And oh, by the way, Uros Medic 45-0 on the significant strike count over Alan Cruz. His second fight being the Jalen Turner fight. Turner got the job done in the first round by rear naked choke. Again, it was two guys who were undefeated. I believe Turner was still undefeated in the UFC by then. Two guys undefeated in the UFC. Turner got the takedown, got the submission, picked up the win in the first round. Then Medic came back in his last fight, winning on a fight night card over Omar Morales, finishing him in the second round by TKO. He will now get Matthew Semelsberger here, and Semelsberger is the favorite, coming at you at -140 for Medic +120. Coming off his last fight where he did lose that fight to Jeremiah Wells. It was an interesting fight over that was in the Apex, yeah. Pavlovich and Blades. Don't know why that fight was in the Apex in the first place, but Semelsberger goes out there. He outstrikes Jeremiah Wells, and it was wrestler versus striker in that fight. Semelsberger, obviously being the striker, it's completely dependent on how you score that fight. Because the first round, again, Semelsberger gets a knockdown in the first round, but ends up on his back for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And in the second round, Jeremiah Wells, again, 3 minutes of control time, but Semelsberger scores the knockdown as well. The third round, all Jeremiah Wells with the wrestling, but it's basically all dependent on how you score those first two rounds. basically how much you really put into the knockdowns Matthew Semelsberger got. And 2 judges went the way of Jeremiah Wells, and that was enough for Wells to pick up the win. Before that, for Semelsberger scoring a big victory over at Jake Matthews to fight at the final fight night card of 2022. He knocks down Matthews 3 times in that one. We're going to see Matthews later on this card in a couple fights, but a big win for Semelsberger there. He drops one before that to Alex Morono, beats AJ Fletcher, beat a very bad Martin Sano, lost to Chaos Williams, beat Jason Witt, and then beat Carlton Minus in his first fight in the UFC. And that's kind of been other than Jake Matthews, it's really been Semelsberger beating entry-level UFC fighters so far in his UFC run, and he's been pretty dominant in doing so. Again, that one fight and the one exception, I think, is the Jake Matthews fight. And again, Semelsberger really showed his striking off in that fight. Again, Eros Medic, a striker as well. You'll likely see striking, on display in this one. You're going to see 2 guys trying to knock each other out. Again, Semelsberger has shown the knockout power. However, he's only gotten it twice so far in the UFC, and they're both in fights the start of his run in the promotion, one being in 16 seconds over Witt and one being in 15 seconds over Martin Sano. Medic's a guy, again, who has not been knocked out. He's only been submitted once in his career. I think this one will likely go the distance, but I think hands will be thrown, and I think this one is going to be an entertaining 15-minute fight. But in the end, I am going to go with Matthew Semelsberger to pick up the victory. I think Semelsberger is the better striker. Again, Medic is taking this one on short notice. He has not fought since May of last year against Omar Morales. It has been over a year since Medic has last fought, and I'm going to take Semelsberger to beat the Slovenian welterweight in Medic. Give me Matthew Semi the Jedi Semelsberger to win this fight in the opener by unanimous decision. On to the next one, we have got the big favorite, minus 325 coming at you for Miranda Fear the Maverick. She'll be taking on Priscilla Cachoeira in this one. I think this fight actually might be opening up the card. I don't know the exact order with the first 2 ones, but because they switched it after Ikram Alaskarov and Paulo Costa were rebooked for that card in Abu Dhabi. But Miranda Maverick, Priscilla Cachoeira here. Again, for Priscilla Cachoeira, finds a way to keep on winning fights. She is on now a 2-fight losing streak after, I think a lot of people thought she should have been cut from the promotion, especially after the Jillian Robertson fight. I know she was coming off back-to-back wins, but they were over Shanna Dobson and Gina Mazzani. She has that fight against Jillian Robertson where she's in the rear naked choke. She gets choked out. Cachoeira, before tapping, I think she tapped, she might have went out. Before, whenever the fight was ended, Cachoeira just tries to rake at the eye of Jillian Robertson. She's kind of a dirty fighter, but, she comes back. She wins her next 2. She did not beat Jeon Kim. That was a ridiculous scorecard. Jeon Kim saying some crazy things on Instagram, by the way, against, about Mandy Bohm. That's crazy. But Cachoeira beats Jeon Kim in a fight that she definitely did not win. And then her last fight looked really good on that fight card in San Diego. That was a long time ago, though. That was, 11 months ago, where she knocked out Ariane Lipsky in the first round. We have not seen Cachoeira since. She has been booked 3 times, once in January against Sajara Eubanks. That was Eubanks' fault that the fight didn't happen. Booked against Karini Silva, but Cachoeira missed weight. And then booked against Joanne Wood on this card, but Wood, of course, could not make it to the fight. I think it was supposed to be Wood's retirement fight, but that'll get pushed and postponed to a future date. But now Miranda Maverick steps in, and for Maverick, coming off that disappointing loss to Jasmine Jasvidius in her home, she loses to Jasvidius in her home country. Jasvidius beats her by unanimous decision. It's a fight that Miranda Maverick is a favorite in, but Jasvidius, man, out wrestles Maverick basically for 15 minutes. I know Miranda, you can probably give 1 round to her, but still, Jasvidius looked really good in that fight. And before that, for Miranda Maverick, she takes advantage of Shanna Young, who Miranda was like a minus 800 favorite in. She beats Sabina Mazo in a fight that she's a pretty sizable favorite in too. But when she gets some of these fighters that are on her same level, like Aaron Blanchfield's in a top 5 position right now, but I guess you can say Macy Barber's at the top of the weight class as well. But Jasvidius, Barber, Blanchfield, when she fights that upper echelon of fighters, Miranda Maverick tends to lose. Now, I don't think Cachoeira is that type of fighter, because we have seen before Cachoeira, she has been taken down, and she is, Jillian Robertson was able to get her on the ground. Even Molly McCann, who was just submitted by Julia Storyrenko in London, was able to take Priscilla Cachoeira down. There are fighters who are able to take advantage and really work on Cachoeira once the fight is hit the ground. But in all, you gotta look at the grappling game at Miranda Maverick, and you gotta look at the wrestling game, because Maverick's wrestling is pretty damn solid. For Cachoeira, primarily more of a striker, a fighter who, at the 135 or 125 pound weight class, wherever she is fighting, this one's gonna be at 125, does have some pretty good power and does have some heavy hands. She can be dangerous, and you don't want to stand there and trade with Priscilla Cachoeira, because we've seen it again. Lipsky in the Lipsky fight, the Shanna Dobson fight, even though that was, I guess Shanna Dobson's not very good. But in those 2 fights, again, and in the Gina Mazzani fight as well, you can't stand in front of Priscilla Cachoeira if you don't have a strategy thrown back at her. Still though, Miranda Maverick should be able to pick up the victory. I think she should be able to get a takedown. I think I don't know if she's going to get a submission. I'm going to say decision win for Miranda Maverick. I've picked her to get submissions before, but she's only gotten one so far in her UFC career. She had the finish win over Luliana Jojua. I believe that was a cut though. Back at UFC 254 in October of 2020. Again, Habib fought on that card, so that's just showing you how long ago that was. Maverick's only finish other than that is the Sabina Mazo fight in March of 2022. I don't think she gets a finish here. Give me Miranda Maverick to win this fight by unanimous decision. Now on back to the welterweight division, we have got the aforementioned Jake Matthews. He'll be taking on, not Miguel Baeza, originally supposed to be Miguel Baeza, but he'll be taking on Darius Flowers as well. Flowers coming off the win on the Contender Series, and this is a guy, again, who is coming off of LFA as well. Again, professional career of 12 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. Not a champion over in LFA as Darius Flowers, but now coming into the UFC, and he'll be taking on a tough guy. Oh, I did not switch the match screen. He'll be taking on a tough guy in Jake Matthews. And now, Matthews, again, originally supposed to take on Baeza, so that's why I don't have odds for this. I made the graphics a couple days ago, so that's why there probably are odds now, but I just don't have them right now. Jake Matthews and Darius Flowers, though. Again, Matthews coming off that loss to Matthew Semelsberger. This is a guy who will be making his 18th walk into the UFC octagon. That just shows you the activity out of Jake Matthews. This guy is, willing to fight often. Recently hasn't been too much activity, but early in his UFC career, Jake Matthews would fight everybody. He was ever so active. He was booked against Gabe Green earlier this year, but of course, Matthews had to pull out. I think it was an injury for Jake Matthews. He now gets Darius Flowers here, and Flowers is a guy who, again, will look to wrestle you some, but a guy who will strike as well. Flowers has been finished 4 times on the ground in his career. The last one coming back in 2021 where he got submitted by guillotine. And then early on in his career too, got taken down a lot and submitted a lot. Jake Matthews, however, won't probably be that guy. I mean, he doesn't really wrestle all that often. Matthews is going to go there. He's going to try to throw hands with you, as you saw in the Andre Fiallo fight. Again, kind of stopped any hype that Fiallo did have over in Singapore. Jake Matthews sat him down and put him out. But it just, you just got to look at it that Darius Flowers' grappling game is not very good. He does have some wrestling, but his jiu-jitsu, not great at all. And again, Matthews is not a submission type guy. As of late, at least, I know earlier on in his UFC career, but I'm just saying the last submission that Jake Matthews has gotten in the UFC was all the way back in 2018 on a fight card main evented by Leon Edwards and Donald Cowboy Cerrone. So I'm not saying Matthews doesn't have it, but recently it has not been, a heavy wrestling game out of Jake Matthews. It has been more of the striking that has won him fights. But again, his last fight got outstruck by Matthew Semelsberger, got knocked down 3 times in that fight. And again, Matthews will always have that wrestling game in his back pocket. I mean, last time he really wrestled a lot was the Amel Mech fight back in February of 2020, so pre-pandemic. But again, it's probably still going to be in the cards for this one for Matthews because of how weak of a grappling game Darius Flowers does have. But then you also got to look at the striking game as well. Or actually, Flowers not a horrible wrestler, but his jiu-jitsu is pretty bad. But he does get taken down often as well. But then again, you look at the striking game. Matthews is a better striker than Darius Flowers. He is an all-around way better fighter, I think, than Flowers. And again, you're getting Flowers on short notice here. He was booked against Eric Gonzalez, but Flowers had to withdraw from that fight, and Eric Gonzalez was the easiest UFC win for the longest time. He went 0-3 in the promotion. I don't know where he's going now. But Flowers couldn't take advantage of that. Trevor Peake ended up getting that fight against Gonzalez instead. Now Flowers will draw Jake Matthews, and I think it's a fight that Jake Matthews wins. I think whether it be with ground and pound or whether it be on the feet, I think Jake Matthews will find a finish, and I don't think this fight's going to last very long. So I'm going to take a first-round knockout victory for Jake Matthews. I think he gets up on out of there quickly, just because, again, I'm not too impressed with Darius Flowers, and I think Jake Matthews is the far better fighter. I think Jake Matthews picks up the victory. I like him to win by first round knockout. On to our next one in the flyweight division. We've got CJ Vergara taking on Vinicius Salvador. For Vergara, what a fight in his last one. The huge win over Daniel Lacerda. And shout out to the UFC by giving Lacerda, I believe, a 5th fight in the promotion. I know he's 0-4 in the UFC, but Daniel Lacerda keeps on putting on tremendous fights. But now CJ Vergara coming off that huge victory over Lacerda in a fight where he gets dropped 2 times in that first round. He comes back, and again, Lacerda, that's kind of been the story of Lacerda's UFC career so far. He has a very strong first rounds, and then once that fight hits the second round, he slows incredibly. But Vergara coming off that win over Lacerda in his last one on that fight night card in San Antonio. He'll now be getting a guy in Vinicius Salvador here who is 14-5 professionally and coming off his first fight in the UFC, which would be a loss to Victor Altamirano by unanimous decision. But this flyweight division is always changing. There's always so many, elements, so many guys. there's so many guys in this flyweight division, especially outside the top 15, where really it feels like if you're not in the top 15, anybody could lose to anybody if you're not Tatsuro Taira. There's so many tough guys in this UFC flyweight division. I mean, hell, you just list off the guys that both Vergara and Vinicius Salvador have fought. These are good fighters. CJ Vergara has fought Ode Osborne in the past. He had a razor-thin split decision loss to Cledson Rodriguez, who's coming off a big first-round knockout victory over Shannon Ross. CJ Vergara fought Tatsuro Taira, Daniel Lacerda, Salvador's fought Victor Altamirano. I mean, it just feels like all of these guys in this flyweight division, they could beat anybody or lose to anybody as well. Again, I'm talking guys outside of the top 15. I'm not saying Brandon Moreno or Alexandre Pantoja or Amir Albazi or Brandon Royval can lose to these guys, but really like the bottom, or not obviously the bottom, but just the guys in the top 20 to 25 range of this weight class are so talented and so good. And they're really just entertaining fights. Like, the best thing that's happened to the UFC in the last couple of years is not cutting the flyweight division, because these guys put on tremendous fights day in and day out. And for Vergara, he has traded wins and losses so far in the UFC. He's lost 2, he's won 2. Again, losing to Ode Osborne in his first fight, beating Cledson Rodriguez, losing to Tatsuro Taira, and then beating Daniel Lacerda in his last one. Vergara is fun to watch. He's always bringing the pace. He's always bringing pressure. And he'll be getting Vinicius Salvador in this fight. Vinicius Salvador in his first fight in the promotion. Lost 29-28 on all 3 cards. The first round in that fight, Altamirano outstrikes him and out-wrestles him. The second round you can probably give to Vinicius Salvador. He outstrikes Altamirano on that second. And the third is an Altamirano win. So Altamirano picks up the fight and wins it 2-1. But what we've seen out of Salvador outside the UFC, I think the fight that got him signed and the fight that caught my eye with the guy was his tremendous fight and the win over Shannon Ross. Now, Shannon Ross has not had the best UFC run since he got signed to the UFC after losing on the Contender Series. He's dropped back-to-back fights where he got knocked out in both under a minute to Cledson Rodriguez in 59 seconds and then Jesus Aguilar in 17 seconds. However, that Shannon Ross fight against Vinicius Salvador was really good. Both those guys traded on the feet, and I think we put a lot of stock into that fight. And, for good reason, Salvador could not get Shannon Ross out of there as quickly as the other guys recently have been able to get Shannon Ross out of there, but still a tremendous fight where Salvador knocks him down twice in the first round and again in the second round, eventually getting that finish in the second. But again, a really back and forth fight. Good win for Vinicius Salvador, but now again, he will be getting CJ Vergara in this one. And I think Vergara is the better fighter. I really think he is. I think CJ Vergara will be able to go out here. I think he will be able to outstrike Salvador. I think he's the quicker fighter. Yes, Salvador may have more power, but all around, I do like the game out of CJ Vergara. You're not going to see Vergara wrestle. That's just not what he does. Likely, if Vinicius Salvador will not do that either, it will be a stand-up fight that I think CJ Vergara is going to win. I think he's faster. I think his hands are better. I think CJ Vergara is going to pick up the victory over Vinicius Salvador. We're going to give him the win by unanimous decision. Okay, next up, we have got Roman Kopylov taking on Claudio Ribeiro in this one. For Kopylov, back-to-back knockout finishes over the likes of Alessio Di Chirico and Punahele Soriano. The Soriano fight, a very good victory for him on the first fight night card of the year on that Strickland Imavov card. Kopylov goes in there and kicks, and it's a body kick victory for Roman Kopylov, the win over Puna Soriano. And the win before that for Kopylov, another knockout finish over in Paris, France, finishing Alessio Di Chirico by knockout in the third round. So Kopylov has really got it going in his last 2 fights in the UFC. However, his first 2 weren't very good, dropping his first fight by René Kachoke to Carl Roberson, and then losing to Albert Duraev after that by unanimous decision. But he's come back and he's won back-to-back fights, and now he is a pretty sizable favorite in this fight against Claudio Ribeiro, a guy who was 1-1 in the UFC after winning his last fight, beating Joe Holmes in the second round by TKO, where it's a fight where, Ribeiro looks good. He gets a knockdown in the second, and eventually, again, it gets the finish on the ground. And then before that for Ribeiro, his first fight in the UFC, dropping one to Abdurazak Al-Hassan in January again of this year, dropping that fight to Abdurazak Al-Hassan. It's a fight that we thought someone was going to get knocked out. Abdurazak Al-Hassan picks up the victory for Ribeiro, again getting his contract in the UFC off the Contender Series off a 25-second knockout. What I can tell you about this fight is that someone's going to get knocked out. I think the under on whatever this fight is probably going to hit, right? Because both these guys throw with heavy intentions. Ribeiro's kind of been set up as one of those guys, especially going into the Abdurazak Al-Hassan fight. We were like, all right, this guy, again, he's looking to put guys out. It's a killer be killed mindset for Ribeiro. He throws a lot of funky strikes. He's going to come in there. That's what he's going to try to do. And for Kopylov, again, a guy who has shown really good boxing in his last couple of fights. His boxing has been really good. Again, the work to the body that he's been able to do, even his kickboxing as well, just the kicks that he was able to put on against Puna, the big body kick that set him down, the Alessio Di Chirico, the big combo he sets up, putting Di Chirico down in that third round. Duraev, the Duraev loss isn't great, but Kopylov has been really good recently. I don't love that he's such a big favorite. I think, plus 190 for Ribeiro is interesting because, again, as good as Kopylov has been recently, he did lose his first 2 fights, and he didn't look all that great in losing those first 2. Again, the Duraev fight, Kopylov does get a knockdown in the second round, but other than that, he still gets, beat down. You can say he probably still loses every single round in that fight, even with the knockdown he gets in the second round, because Duraev has him down for 4 minutes and 30 seconds in that second. And the Carl Roberson fight, again, he gets taken down and submitted in the third. So Kopylov, his wrestling game isn't great, but is Claudio Ribeiro going to be the guy to submit him? Hell no. Like, it's a stylistic matchup that favors both guys because both guys do not like dealing with wrestlers and guys who have good jiu-jitsu games. And it's just going to make for a fun striking fight. Because, again, the threat of the grappling is kind of gone there for Kopylov, like it honestly kind of has been in his last 2 fights. Puna's a striker. Alessio Di Chirico's a striker. Claudio Ribeiro is a striker as well. I think it's a tough ask for Ribeiro, especially against a guy in Kopylov who knows he's going to get a striking matchup the other way. I'm going to take the favorite here. I don't love the odds, but I'm going to take the favorite here. I'm going to take Roman Kopylov to beat Claudio Ribeiro. I think he'll get it done by first round knockout in an all-out war for as long as this fight does last. I think Kopylov picks up the victory. He's going to get it done by first round knockout. On to our next fight. It will be a fight here now between Gabriel Bonfim and Trevin Giles back in the welterweight division. Obviously, Bonfim is a huge favorite for a good reason, but Trevin Giles will look to cash as a big underdog here tonight. I think I don't know the exact lineup order. I've seen that maybe this fight's going to be the featured prelim over Derek Lewis, which really doesn't make sense to me, but it might be. I don't know. Bonfim and Trevin Giles, though, the undefeated Gabriel Bonfim, 14-0 as a professional, coming off his first win in the UFC at UFC 283. He beats Munir Lazzez by submitting Lazzez in the first round with a guillotine choke. This guy's jiu-jitsu is on another level, and especially in a weight class at 170 where you don't have too many pure grapplers. And Bonfim, don't get me wrong, he's not bad on the feet either, but tremendous grappler. That's where he's going to look to win fights. Trevin Giles is a guy, though, who doesn't get taken down that often. He doesn't, except his last fight against Preston Parsons. Parsons did take him down 3 times. But, as a whole in Giles' UFC career, he's been pretty good with his defensive, wrestling. Trevin Giles, in his last fight against Preston Parsons, Parsons shot 11 takedowns. He only got 3 of them, but still, again, all Bonfim needs is 1. So that's the concerning part in this fight for Giles. Like, yes, historically, he has been good with his wrestling defense. When you're fighting a guy who's such a good grappler, and such a good jiu-jitsu practitioner like Gabriel Bonfim, you cannot get stuck in one position where you're on your back or anything where you're somewhat on the ground. And, oh, by the way, again, Bonfim is able to use his hands as well. He is, I wouldn't say that's the strong part of his game, obviously, but he's not a horrible striker either. The guy is still coming into his own as a complete MMA fighter. He's only 25 years old. He's still young in his career, and now he gets a guy in Trevin Giles, which is a step up in competition. Because Trevin Giles, we've seen in the past, has kind of been that guy for some of these fighters who is that step up in competition. I mean, hell, like, he had 3 fights in a row, I would say, where he was that guy that they tried to, use as a stepping stone. Roman Dolidze. He beats Roman Dolidze. It's his best fight to date. Dolidze's now in the top 10, but that was the fight for Dolidze. All right, your step up to Trevin Giles, and he couldn't pass. Dricus du Plessis. Du Plessis beats Trevin Giles, but that was his step up. Michael Morales. Well, that was I think that was his first fight in the UFC, but still, it was a step up immediately for him. And for Giles, getting back-to-back wins in his last 2 over Louis Cosi. It's a boring fight that he wins. And then a win where he barely gets the win over Preston Parsons. Now, how does Giles win this fight? He's going to have to outstrike Bonfim. He's going to have to keep the fight standing. And it's not an easy ask at all because Bonfim is very good with the stand-up game. And, Giles, that's probably where he will have the advantage, obviously. That's his best shot to win this fight is on the feet. But, man, again, Gabriel Bonfim is that good as a jiu-jitsu player. And he's so good on the ground. He's so good at fighting submissions. And it doesn't really matter how you cook it up and how, okay, yes, Giles is good defensive wrestling. He does have good defensive wrestling. And he has shown in the past where he can fight off some takedowns. But again, we talked about the 3 for 11 for Preston Parsons. All Bonfim needs is 1. So if you give up 1 to Bonfim, it's going to be trouble. And I think Giles will at least give up that 1. And I think Gabriel Bonfim is going to pick up the win. I like Bonfim the favorite here, obviously. Again, probably one of the biggest favorites on this card. He might be the biggest favorite on this card other than Bobby Green, I think. Gabriel Bonfim is going to win this fight at 25 years old. This guy's only getting better. And Gabriel Bonfim is going to pick up the win over Trevin Giles. He's going to get it done by first round submission. I don't think it's going to be any trouble for him. Similar to the Munir Zez win, Bonfim gets it done within 1. Gabriel Bonfim stays undefeated and goes to 15-0. On to our hopefully featured prelim, Derek Lewis and Marcos Rodrigo de Lima. Oh man, does the Black Beast need this one? He needs it bad. I mean, Derek Lewis has been on the wrong end of a lot of fights recently. Now, this isn't make or break for the career because he will get another fight, and we aren't in the stage yet with Derek Lewis where he's fighting the Jamal Pogues of the world or the Chase Shermans of the world, because if it ever happens, that's where we need to go with Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis cannot get cut. Like, no, you cannot get Derek Lewis out of the UFC. You cannot send this man to the PFL where they could book him against Ngannou. Actually, that's not horrible because he has beat Ngannou. Anyways, you know, that's the only guy Ngannou hasn't avenged a loss to. Actually, honestly, it's not horrible. Anyways, Derek Lewis, though, still cannot get cut for the UFC. Like, you need him around. And this is a fight where he is an underdog in. He is an underdog to Marcos Rodrigo de Lima. Why? Because this guy recently has been pretty good. You look at the Andrei Arlovsky fight. Arlovsky was at kind of a point in his career where he wasn't really losing fights, where he kept beating these lower-level heavyweight guys. You look at Arlovsky's career, right? Before his last 2 fights, where yes, he has lost back-to-back fights to De Lima and Dontel Mays. I don't know, maybe this is the end for Andrei Arlovsky. But when you look at the little run he went on after losing to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, as the pandemic started, he beats Felipe Lins, he beats Tanner Boser, drops the fight to Tom Aspinall, it's going to happen. He beats Chase Sherman, beats Carlos Felipe, beats Jared Vandera, beats Jake Collier. Then he runs into De Lima. De Lima knocks him down early in the first round, follows it up by getting his back and submitting him with a rear naked choke. Like, De Lima is talented. And then after that, he beats Waldo Cortez Acosta. It's Acosta's step up in competition from the ranks of the low-level heavyweights. And honestly, I don't think Cortez Acosta does a horrible job. I really don't think he does. Yeah, I think he loses, obviously, right? Because De Lima was able to take him down. And in the first round, De Lima outstruck him. In the second round, again, De Lima took him down and held him down. Cortez Acosta doesn't do a horrible job. He comes back, really wins that third round, does a lot of damage with his leg kicks. I don't think Acosta's actually all that bad. I really don't think he is. I think it's just he had a tough fight against De Lima. Or did I say, like, his more of the striking game to the top that Cortez Acosta had success with. It was De Lima was the one who was working the leg kicks, not Cortez Acosta. But I honestly don't think he's that bad. I think it was just a tougher fight, and then De Lima is getting a fight that can really put him into the top 10 with Derek Lewis. Now for Derek Lewis, again, we can talk about how unsuccessful he's been recently. It's been bad. Now Derek Lewis has been out wrestled, he has been outpowered, he has been outstrengthed, and he has been outstruck. That's kind of been the way it's gone recently for Lewis. A loser in 4 out of his last 5, the only win being over Chris Daukaus, and that was in a main event. However, Chris Daukaus is in a situation where he's going down to light heavyweight, where he'll be fighting Khalil Roundtree next month, and it's a fight that Daukaus needs to win to stay in the UFC. We'll talk about that fight in a couple weeks on that Luque Dos Anjos card back in the Apex, and why the UFC keeps going back to the Apex, I don't know. But anyways, Daukaus is a guy that's found himself in a bad spot in the UFC as well, but that's Derek Lewis's only win since beating Curtis Blades, which was the high point, I would say, in Derek Lewis's entire career, even higher than when he beat Volkov before he fought, DC for the championship. Because he beats Curtis Blades, and if only Ngannou was fighting, they could do Lewis Ngannou, and Lewis would not had to fight Ciryl Gane. I'm saying that would have been so different. And maybe it wouldn't beat Ngannou, but it's the second fight between Lewis and Ngannou. Ngannou has already lost to him. Ngannou was scared to fight Derek Lewis the first time. You don't know how the second one goes. It doesn't happen because they book him against Lebonga, man. Ciryl Gane absolutely obliterates him, and Derek Lewis has not been the same. He dropped a fight to Tai Tuivasa, where it was a back-and-forth war, but Tuivasa knocks him out. Then he fights Sergey Pavlovich. That fight was not competitive. It was not close. It was only 55 seconds. And yeah, maybe Dan Miragliotta saved Derek Lewis from some damage, but still, you knew what the end result was going to be in that fight. And then Sergey Spivak, they book him in a main event, which aired at like 2 in the morning over here on the West Coast, 5 in the morning on the East Coast in the UFC Apex. And Sergey Spivak just manhandles him. Derek Lewis doesn't get a strike off. He gets taken down 6 times, and Spivak submits him in the first round. Now, Sergey is going to be getting Sinogan in Paris in September, but man, like, it's been the wrong end of a lot of fights recently for Derek Lewis. And now you get a guy in Marcos Rodrigo de Lima who may not be uber talented striking. He may not be the greatest grappler, but you know what he can do? He can do both. And that's going to be tough for Lewis. I really don't want to pick against Derek Lewis here. But man, it's tough to pick him here. It's just tough because how does he win? He's going to have to knock out de Lima, and he's going to have to do it early. But we have not seen a good Derek Lewis since the Chris Dawkins fight. That's the last time Lewis has been good. And yes, de Lima isn't the greatest, and he might not even be in the top 15. But Derek Lewis has not been good recently. It's a tough fight to pick. I will never pick against the Black Beast in a fight like this. I'm going to take Derek Lewis, but man, I'm not confident. Like, don't put money on this fight. I'm going to take Derek Lewis by first round knockout just because I like Derek Lewis and I've been watching Derek Lewis for a long time. That's kind of an out of hope pick for me too. I hope Derek Lewis is able to go out there and win. I hope he can catch de Lima early because de Lima has been caught before. That's undeniable. It's just that, again, can de Lima... And de Lima's the same age as Derek Lewis too. They're both 38. It's not like de Lima's a young and up-and-coming fighter. He's just found success recently, winning 4 out of his last 5. But de Lima, again, he's been caught before, but also de Lima has gone out there and knocked guys out. Like, Ben Rothwell doesn't get knocked out that often, and de Lima was able to knock out Rothwell in 32 seconds. The guy's quick on the feet. He's got heavy hands. Man, oh man, it's tough because de Lima is good early as well. For Derek Lewis, you can always knock you out with any punch, right? It could be the first minute, it could be the last minute of the fight. But usually you like to see Derek Lewis win early. This is the type of fight where I would not be surprised if Derek Lewis wins late because de Lima he runs a sprint as well. Both these guys commonly try to get fights out early. If Derek Lewis can wait a little bit and try to fight and just kind of preserve his energy and not get knocked down in the first round, maybe the opportunity presents itself in the second or the third round. However, is Derek Lewis going to come into this fight with the game plan? No, he's not. Derek Lewis is going to try to go knock him out in the first round. So someone's going to get knocked out early, or de Lima might submit Derek Lewis, because that could happen as well. However, I'm going to take Derek Lewis to win. It might be out of pure hope, but give me the Black Beast, Derek Lewis, to win this fight. He's going to get it done by first round knockout. The Black Beast with the victory. Really hoping he can get it together, man. I'm hoping for the Black Beast. All right. On to our next fight here. Opening off the main card, we have got Michael Chiesa taking on Kevin Holland. A very interesting fight because we've known, how Holland has struggled in the past with the wrestlers. Again, it has kind of been put behind him recently because of the guys he has fought. Hamzat Chimaev, we're not going to really, put too much stock in that. But the guys that Holland has beat since his little run of losing to wrestlers, Vittori, Brunson, since he's gone down to 70, right? He beat Alex Oliveira where he finished him in the second round. He submitted Tim Means in the second round. He had the fight against Chimaev. Whatever. He lost to Wonderboy in a striking fight, but not many guys are willing to strike with Wonderboy for 20 minutes straight, and oh well, Holland lost. It's fine. And then recently he went out there and knocked out Santiago Ponzinibbio in the third round. But now you get a wrestler in Michael Chiesa. Now you get a jiu-jitsu guy in Michael Chiesa, a guy who is not going to play around in the feet. You know what Chiesa is going to try to do, and, the objective is right there for Michael Chiesa. It's take down Kevin Holland and submit him as soon as possible. That's what Chiesa is going to try to do here. There's going to be no playing around in the feet. If Chiesa cannot get a takedown, he's screwed, right? But if he can get a takedown, it's going to be a long night for Kevin Holland. Now, I'm not saying it's over for Holland because I definitely think Holland can get back up. I think a lot of his problems when he fought Brunson and Vittori was just, okay, again, he wasn't really training his jiu-jitsu much. He wasn't really training his wrestling much. And he was at a weight class where he was a much smaller fighter. At 185, Holland was small. At 70, a lot of opportunities for Kevin Holland at 170 pounds. Like, he's usually the bigger fighter. He's usually the guy who is enforcing his will and imposing his will on his opponent. And he's not going to get bullied in their grappling. And I don't think that's going to happen in this fight against Michael Chiesa. Because I think Holland is, again, how big is Kevin Holland's 6'3", Michael Chiesa is 6'1". Like, both these guys are big welterweights, but still, Holland will be bigger. I think Holland, weigh in, Holland will be bigger as well, because again, Chiesa is a guy who used to fight lightweight back once upon a time. So, Michael Chiesa, tremendous grappling game. We've seen him dominate some elite guys on the ground. Carlos Condit, Diego Sanchez wasn't really elite when he fought him, but he dominated Diego Sanchez. He beat Rafael Dos Anjos, beat Neil Magny. After he beat Neil Magny, and after, Chiesa kept calling out Colby Covington, he runs into Vicente Luque, he gets submitted in the first round, and then he runs into Sean Brady, he loses by unanimous decision. Now, both those guys, Luque and Brady, have lost recently. Luque to Bilal Muhammad and Jeff Neal, and Sean Brady to Bilal Muhammad. Chiesa now gets Holland, and I think it's a tough fight for him. Because, again, yes, he will have the advantage grappling, and Michael Chiesa will always be a very good grappler. We have not seen it, but we haven't seen a real good Chiesa in a while. I know he put Luque in, kind of a tough situation early in their fight at UFC 265. He took him down. Obviously, that fight got reversed. Then Luque ends up with the Dars, and Luque ends up winning. But we haven't seen a really good Chiesa since his main event against Neil Magny. And yeah, that fight wasn't great, but Chiesa was able to go out there and out-wrestle him, and he was, the guy on top throughout that entire fight. And that's the little 4-fight winning streak that Chiesa was trying to make his push to the championship, I would say. They looked really good in it. He was always dominating guys on the ground. He was always able to find that takedown. The RDA win's probably his best win ever, I would think, in a co-main event in Raleigh, North Carolina back in January of 2020. That's when Chiesa was at his best. Now it's kind of been, tough sailing for him because Sean Brady, that fight, Sean Brady was just a better wrestler. And that's kind of, remember when we were talking about that fight, we were saying, all right, the better wrestler in this fight's going to win. Don't know who it's going to be. I thought it was going to be Chiesa. It was Sean Brady. Brady was better, and Brady out-wrestled him. That's just how the fight went. Now, in this one against Holland, it's a matter of, A, can Holland fight off the takedowns, and B, can Holland get back up if he does get taken down. That's how this fight ends up. Because Chiesa's not a horrible, wrestler. He's a good jiu-jitsu guy and a pretty solid wrestler as well. It's just a matter of, again, can Holland use his strength to get back up, or can he use his strength to stay off the takedown in the first place? I tend to think he probably will be able to stay on the feet. I think Holland's wrestling game has gotten a lot better. His jiu-jitsu as a whole has gotten a lot better. Holland is a better fighter than that guy who got beat on the ground against Brunson and Vittori. And those two guys, by the way, are big middleweights who are guys who can dominate pretty much anybody on the ground with the wrestling, right? Chiesa is good, but I think Holland's better. I think Holland's able to keep the fight standing. I think Holland's able to use his striking. I think Holland's just stronger. And again, Holland's striking is very solid. He's got big power. I don't think Chiesa is able to stand with him for 15 minutes. I think eventually Kevin Holland will get Michael Chiesa out of there. I'm going to go a second round knockout victory for Kevin Holland. I think the Trailblazer picks up the victory. There's not many guys in the UFC that can outstrike Kevin Holland at 170 pounds. Obviously, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is one of them, and we will talk about Wonderboy in a minute. But Kevin Holland's going to go out here and pick up the victory. It's going to be a good victory for Kevin Holland at that, too. I think he's going to go out there and finish Michael Chiesa on the ground. Well, I think he'll knock him down and finish him on the ground. Kevin Holland picks up the victory by second round TKO, moving now on to 25 wins and 9 losses in his career, but a big victory for Kevin Holland here to open off the main card. All right, a interesting fight. Tony Ferguson, Bobby Green. You got to think if Tony loses the final fight of his career, and it is a tough damn fight. Bobby Green is good. Like, people don't know how good Bobby Green is. This guy is tremendous. I know he lost his last fight to Drew Dober. Obviously, the no contest against Jared Gordon where they clashed heads. Gordon kind of gets knocked out. Bobby finishes him on the ground. Obviously, the fight gets overruled to a no contest. But it's fine. That doesn't really matter because Bobby Green gets rewarded with the fight against Tony Ferguson. Like, that's okay. He gets Tony now. And now, is Ferguson ranked? No. Is Tony all that great anymore? No. But it's still a name, and it's on the main card of a pay-per-view, right? It's a huge opportunity for Bobby Green, the biggest one on a level of mainstream attention in his career. I know he got a fight against Islam where if he won, he was probably getting a title fight, but this is a big opportunity for Bobby Green. And for Tony Ferguson, I mean, the road to this fight in Utah has been interesting as well. He had the whole DUI. Man, it's tough looking at what happened to Tony. Just as a whole, like, the Gaethje fight was the start of the downfall. He loses to Gaethje, loses to Charles, loses to Beneil, gets head kicked in the face by Michael Chandler, and then loses to Nate Diaz. I don't dislike Nate Diaz, but he lost to a Nate Diaz who, guys, is probably going to get knocked out by Jake Paul in 2 weeks. Right? Like, man, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I don't think Tony stands a chance in this fight. I really don't think he does. Tony's a shell of his former self. He looked slow in the Nate fight. Nate looked slow too, but Nate was still able to beat him, right? You go back and rewatch that fight. Tony wins the third round. That's the only round Tony wins. He loses the first. He loses the second. Obviously, the fourth is where he gets submitted. He was losing that round before he got submitted, obviously, because Tony goes for the takedown because Nate is, putting it on him on the feet, and then Nate again finished him with the guillotine choke. Tony barely wins the third round, but his striking is just slow. Bobby Green's a guy, and Tony's probably not going to look to take Bobby down. Bobby Green is a tremendous defensive wrestler, so that's not a problem. Bobby Green's going to put it on Tony Ferguson, guys. Like, he is going to really put it on him here. If you've never watched Bobby Green fight, I'm a big Bobby Green fan, but this guy, his boxing's great. He barely gets hit on the feet, too. He's got the shoulder roll every single time. If you try to hit him, he's just going to block it with his shoulder. Bobby Green barely gets hit. He's a tough guy to finish. I know Drew Dober finished him, but Drew Dober's good. Like, Drew Dober's really damn good. And Bobby Green was very competitive in that fight until he got finished. That's going to happen to you. But Tony, again, has not won a fight since... when was Tony's last win? It was Cowboy in Chicago in 2019. It's been so long. Bobby Green's a true top 15 guy. Is Tony Ferguson in the top 15 anymore? No, he's not. He's not. Tony's only success that we've seen in the last 5 fights, the third round against Nate, and the 1 second where he knocked down Michael Chandler. Sure, he won the first round against Mike, but Chandler, again, boom, head kick, knocked him out. That's the type of knockout where, sure, the Gaethje fight's a fight where, you're going to be holding that damage for the rest of your career. The Chandler knockout is the type of knockout where you're like, all right, let's probably look to hang it up now. Because that's how vicious that knockout was that Michael Chandler scored. That's how vicious it was. One of the greatest knockouts I've ever seen. He's still fighting, though, and, Tony needs to hang it up. Win or lose. If you can somehow beat Bobby Green, I won't like it, because I like Bobby Green. Bobby, all right, great. Now retire, Tony. He's not beating Bobby Green. Just trust me on this. Bobby Green is not losing this fight. Bobby Green is way quicker. This is going to be like Bobby Green versus Al Iaquinta. If you go back and rewatch that fight, it was in New York. Iaquinta's retirement fight. This will probably be Tony's retirement fight. Bobby immediately rushed him. He blitzed him. Boom, 1-2, put him down. I think that's how this fight's going to go, too. First round knockout Bobby Green. That's how confident I am. I think Bobby Green's going to do what nobody else has done before. Tony has not been finished in the first round, I believe, in his entire career. And Bobby Green is going to be the first guy to do it. Justin Gaethje wasn't able to do it. Charles Oliveira was not able to do it. Beneil Dariush was not able to do it. Michael Chandler was not able to do it. Cowboy, Anthony Pettis, RDA, Nate Diaz. Bobby Green's going to be the first guy. Tony's older. He's 39 years old. Bobby Green is still, 36. Green's still competitive with a lot of guys. Bobby Green can give you a good fight with anyone in the top 15. Bobby Green's going to win this fight by first round knockout. And as a Bobby Green fan, I'm ecstatic that he gets this fight and gets the opportunity where people get to know who he is. And a fight where Bobby Green, if he wins, can really get a big name, I think, in the top 15 after this. Because he's beating Tony Ferguson. So I'm excited for Bobby Green, but I think it's done. It's over for Tony. Tony should not be fighting anymore. But Bobby, again, this guy is so good at range. He's such a good boxer. And what is Tony going to do? I don't think he's going to be able to take him down because Bobby Green's a really good defensive wrestler. Striking-wise, Bobby Green is going to eat him alive. He is going to eat alive 39-year-old Tony Ferguson, who's not in his prime anymore at all. Bobby Green wins. He's going to make it look easy. Bobby Green wins this fight by first-round knockout. Okay, on to a fight that was originally supposed to be in the undercard, but of course with Ikram Aliskerov and Paulo Costa getting wiped from this card, and now, Costa getting Khamzat Chimaev and Ikram Aliskerov getting, who's he fighting? Nasruddin Imavov, I believe, yeah. I'm glad this fight makes it to the main card. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson takes on Michel Pereira. What a fight here. I mean, again, a striker's paradise, this one. What a fight. I mean, for Michel Pereira, what a win in his last fight, beating Santiago Ponzinibbio by split decision. A tremendous fight that wins Fight of the Night back in May of 2022. It has been a while for Pereira, but Michel Pereira has been calling for this fight for a very long time. And this is a guy who's now on a 5-fight winning streak. After losing to Diego Sanchez by disqualification in 2020, Michel Pereira has strung together 5 straight wins over the likes of Zelim Imadaev, Chaos Williams, Nico Price, Andrea Fiallo, and Santiago Ponzinibbio. He now gets the biggest fight of his career. It's Wonderboy Thompson. But just how good is Stephen Thompson? I know he's 40 years old now, but just how good is Wonderboy? The man doesn't age. You look at his fight against Kevin Holland, a fight a lot of people thought he was gonna lose. I'm pretty sure I took Wonderboy. I always take Wonderboy. I picked Wonderboy to win because he's still that guy as a striker. Like, yeah, you can beat him wrestling. Gilbert Burns, Bilal Muhammad. Yeah, you can do that to him. But nobody's outstriking Wonderboy still. I believe that. Nobody's outstriking Stephen Thompson still. And now, is Wonderboy likely ever going to fight his way back to a world championship fight? I don't think so. I really don't think he is. Because, welterweight, actually, there's fights. I mean, I would still say Wonderboy's like number 5 right now. I would go, Leon, but, Kamaru's likely not going to get a title shot. Bilal is probably next. So I think Bilal's for the winner of Colby, Leon. Shavkat's going to get Kelvin Gastelum, but honestly, I don't think Shavkat's going to get a title fight with the win next because he's fighting Gastelum. So I think Shavkat will likely have to fight against Gilbert Burns. So Wonderboy's kind of still in the mix. He's probably 2 fights away. If you can win this fight, then you honestly, he's gonna have to fight Usman. That's probably a fight that if Wonderboy's gonna need, there's probably nobody else because he's already beat Jeff Neal and Jeff Neal's supposed to fight Ian Machado, Gary. So yeah, honestly, if Wonderboy wins, the only guy that's open, you're not gonna do Burns again. You're not gonna do Muhammad again. Really, it's make or break in the career of Stephen Thompson. At least if you're still looking at title fights. The next fight's probably Usman if he can win. Now, will that fight happen? I don't know. And is that fight all that great for Wonderboy? Probably not. However, if he can leg kick Usman, just saying, Usman's knees are horrible. Who knows if that fight happens? But I'm just saying, that's probably the fight if Wonderboy can win. If Michel Pereira wins, I mean, the sky's the limit. He's now in the top 10. However, I doubt Wonderboy's likely going to fight for a world championship, despite what I just said. But he's in that state of his career where he's getting fun fights. Kevin Holland was a fun fight. Michel Pereira is a fun fight. I don't think Michel Pereira makes sense in terms of, again, fighting for a world championship because Pereira, I think, ranked number 15 right now. He's only 29 years old. He's been around for a while. But you know what this guy does. I mean, if you're not familiar with Michel Pereira, watch the Tristan Connolly fight. And I kind of saw Pereira as a joke after losing to Connolly, but now he's 6-2 in the UFC, and one of those losses is the fight that he was in control of against Diego Sanchez. But, hey, it's Pereira's fault. He illegal kneed Diego Sanchez. Now Pereira, Wonderboy Thompson, right? Again, he could and probably should be 7-1 in the UFC. Pereira's good. He's going to bring that weird striking style. He's going to, do backflips in the octagon. He's a madman. And again, his first pay-per-view main card, he's going to do some crazy stuff as well against Wonderboy Thompson. He's going to do some crazy stuff. Actually, no, the Fiala fight was on the main card too. But on this stage, one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year, yeah, Pereira's going to do some crazy stuff in this fight. Now you get him against Wonderboy. I still don't know how Pereira wins, though, because I really think nobody can outstrike Wonderboy. I'm a firm believer of that. Yeah, you have to knock him out. Pettis did that. But truly, still, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson does not get outstruck. Tell me who you think in the top 15 of the welterweight division can outstrike Stephen Thompson. Leon Edwards, maybe? Sure, Leon. Yeah, I would say Leon can. But then you read the names, okay? Wonderboy lost to Burns, but he got out-wrestled. That's fair. That's really the Achilles heel of Stephen Thompson, right? Thompson's good. He's the best striker in the weight class. But he gets out-wrestled. That's what happened to Bilal, right? In the Bilal fight and the Burns fight. But he can still outstrike both those guys. He can outstrike Usman. He definitely outstrike Colby. And I like Colby, but he'd outstrike Colby. Shavkat, I think he'd outstrike Shavkat. Now would be the threat of wrestling, right? Jeff Neal, we've already seen that fight. Sean Brady, obviously. Luque, we've already seen that. Magny, yeah. Della Maddalena, after his last fight, yeah. Chiesa, obviously. Holland, we just saw it. Ian Gary, yeah. Pereira is the only other guy, right, who's in this, top 15 in the weight class. I think Wonderboy's going to outstrike him. I think he's going to win a decision. I mean, Stephen Thompson doesn't really get too many finishes. Obviously, he did finish Holland because Holland, had the injury. And really just an accumulation of damage. But Stephen Thompson's that good. He's 40 years old, but until Stephen Thompson shows that he's going to slow down, I'm going to keep picking him. And I don't think this is going to be the fight where he does slow down. It's the karate style. He's that good. He's in and out. He uses his kicks. He uses his striking. Stephen Thompson is still one of the elite guys in the weight class. and he will outstrike Michel Pereira. I know Pereira has been on a roll recently. He's won his last 5 fights. That's great and all. But you're not outstriking Stephen Thompson. Pereira's only shot is if he knocks out Thompson and lands something huge and puts Wonderboy out cold. You can hit Wonderboy, but you gotta put him away. Because you saw Holland really put some shots into Thompson, and he kept eating it. So unless you knock Stephen Thompson out, he's going to keep coming, and he's going to keep outstriking you. Give me Wonderboy to win by unanimous decision. Okay, on now to the co-main event. What a fight. In the light heavyweight division, a title eliminator. The winner of this fight will likely fight Yuri Prochazka later this year for the vacant championship. I would say likely in December. Jan Blachowicz, Alex Pereira. What a fight. Man, oh man. And, it's great because Pereira is no longer fighting middleweight, and it doesn't seem like he's running from Izzy. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to say that, but if you are making that case, he's fighting the guy Adesanya lost to for the light heavyweight championship. Incredible. Incredible stuff. Like, that's, right? Pereira, 4-1 in the UFC. We can talk about the wins. He beat Michailidis, he beat Bruno Silva. You've heard the story before. He knocked out Sean Strickland. The 2 Adesanya fights, you've seen them. I don't really, 2 of the most viewed fights in UFC history. I really don't need to talk about them all that much, right? The last fight for Pereira didn't go his way. He got knocked out. Sure, he was looking really good in that fight, but he got knocked out. That, I don't really think matters in this fight. I really don't think it does. My point in this fight is, can Pereira stay on the feet? That's how simple it is. Can he stay on the feet? Because Jan, I know in his last fight he got out-wrestled by Magomed Ankalaev in the draw for the World Championship. Sure, it doesn't matter. He is going to be the better wrestler against Alex Pereira. He has to out-wrestle Pereira. Because if he doesn't, he's going to get knocked out. So can he take Pereira down? That's my question. I don't know. I really don't know. If he can take Pereira down, he's going to win. If he can't take Pereira down, he's going to get knocked out. Jan is 40 years old, though. Blachowicz is getting older, but he's still in a position in his fighting career where if he wins, he is fighting for a world championship. Because the winner of this fight undoubtedly is getting the next title shot. I thought this fight should be for the world championship because the way I see it, there's no harm in putting the belt in this fight. Sure, you can see these guys are unworthy of the fight, but Jan Blachowicz just had a draw for the world championship in his last fight, and he beat Alexander Rakic before that. Alex Pereira is the former middleweight champion going up to light heavyweight. Sure, is Pereira all that deserving of a championship opportunity in a weight class he's never fought in his 10th professional fight? No, but there's no harm in putting the world championship on this fight if the winner's just going to fight Prochazka for the championship anyway. I know they stripped Jamal Hill, sure, or Jamal Hill, relinquished the championship, they're going to strip him anyway. Why not put the championship on this fight? Because Prochazka is going to fight for the championship anyway, or put the belt on Prochazka right now. Because the way I see it right now, Prochazka is just the defuncto champion. Which, great, we snuck in a Jamal Hill championship run in between, but basically Prochazka is the champ now. He doesn't have to fight anybody to get the championship fight. Well, sure, I think that's great. I don't think he never lost the championship. Sure, and when Jamal Hill comes back, Hill should walk into an immediate championship fight as well. But just put the bet on this. Because the winners will sell more pay-per-views. Like, in December, it'll probably sell more pay-per-views if you have, get this, right? Either the 2-time champion in Jan Blachowicz, you can book it as the 2-time champion Blachowicz, or the 2-weight champion in Pereira. Right? Like, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. But okay, fine. The winner of this fight is fighting Prochazka for the championship. Again, I would likely think in December, probably in main event, because it seems like Colby and Leon will be co-main eventing in November, even though just put that fight in December and have it main event. I don't know. But Blachowicz, Pereira. Okay, can Jan take Pereira down? Can Jan take Alex down? That's the question. I don't know. I mean, again, Pereira has not been tested against a wrestler yet. And is Jan a wrestler? No, he's not. But he's a better, he's the Robert Whittaker we talked about at 185. That's what I was saying when Pereira was making his run for the championship against Izzy. And they gave him Sean Strickland. I said that was a strategic pick because Sean Strickland isn't going to wrestle him. Strickland's going to be stupid. And yeah, Sean's going to find his way in a championship fight in his next fight in Sydney against Izzy. That's great. But I said Sean's going to be stupid. Sean's going to strike with him. And Sean's going to get knocked out. What happened? Right? And it was a fight where I believe Sean was a slight favorite in too. We said before Alex fought Izzy, He did not have to fight the guy who's gatekeeping the championship in Robert Whittaker. Now, Whittaker's not that gatekeeper anymore after Giles Duplessis finished him in the second round. And again, I think Duplessis Adesanya is a huge fight that will happen eventually, assuming that Adesanya can beat Strickland. They push that fight to 2024. Alex never had to fight a guy like Robert Whittaker. Jan Blachowicz is that guy like Robert Whittaker is. Now, what Rob is at 185, that's what Jan is at 205. And not to the same extent, I know, but a guy that's going to really challenge Pereira. They let him get the championship fight at 185 without fighting a guy that can wrestle him. Now they're going to test him. He's not going to walk into 2 championship fights in 2 different weight classes without being tested. Jan is going to shoot on him. It is a matter of Pereira can keep the fight standing. I'm so split on this pick. I really am. Because I think it can go either way. It's tough for me because Izzy was able to take down Pereira. Can Jan do it as well? I don't know. Are we overhyping Jan's wrestling because of what he did to Izzy? Because other than that Izzy fight, Jan Blachowicz really has not wrestled in the UFC. The only fight where Jan has consistently wrestled, other than when he beat Israel Adesanya, was when he beat Jared Cannonier in December of 2017. It's been a very long time. That's really the only fight that Jan has been, dead set on wrestling, other than the Izzy fight, was when he beat Jared. And again, that was a long time ago. Was it Jan's wrestling that beat Izzy? Or was it that he weighed 20 pounds heavier than Izzy that beat Izzy? I don't know, right? It's one of the two, because he got beat up on the ground by Glover Teixeira. He got beat up on the ground by Magomed Ankalaev, but that does not matter. That does not mean anything in this fight. It truly doesn't, because he's going to be a better wrestler than Alex Pereira. He's not going to get taken down. It's just a matter of what can Jan do wrestling-wise. Because Jan, if he stands and strikes with Alex, we've seen this story before. Pereira has been able to do this to guys like Sean Strickland, who did not wrestle him. He went in there and he knocked him out. So Jan has to wrestle him. Jan has to, or he's not going to win. I know Jan did tremendous damage with his leg kicks against Magomed Ankalaev, made it to the point where Ankalaev could barely walk. That doesn't matter. Pereira is one of the greatest kickboxers of all time. He's maybe the greatest kickboxer we've seen in MMA. That's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. Jan's not going to knock Pereira out on the feet. To do it on the ground. It's a matter of if Jan can take him down. The pick, I'm taking Alex Pereira. This entire week I thought I was going to take Jan Blachowicz. I thought Jan was the easy pick. But like the Sean Strickland fight, I think Alex finds a way to win by first round knockout. Now. I think Jan will try to take him down. However, I don't think Blachowicz's wrestling is as good as people think it is. I don't think it's as good. I'm going to be under the belief that he beat Izzy because he was bigger than Izzy. And that's kind of it. I think he will take Pereira down, but I think Pereira is going to get back up. And I think Alex is going to be able to stuff any more takedowns that Blachowicz is going to throw at him. Another factor, Jan's 40 years old. He's not young anymore. I know when he won the championship, he wasn't young, but he's 40. I know we just talked about Wonderboy being young for 40, sure. But I think Alex keeps it on the feet, and I think Alex Pereira is going to knock him out in the first round. It's either going to be that, or it's going to be domination by Jan Blachowicz on the ground. But you know what they say. Every round starts in the feet. Alex Pereira, look back at his first fight at Madison Square Garden against Andreas Michailidis. Many people, if you're casual of the sport, you do not know who Andreas Michailidis is. MMA Masters Zone from Florida. He's not from Florida, but he trains in Florida. He took down Alex Pereira in Pereira's first fight in the UFC in the first round. He controlled him on the ground. What happened in the second round? Pereira got back up. Boom. Flying knee, knocked him out. Every fight starts in the feet. This one, I think Pereira does get it on the first. Alex Pereira gets Yuri Prochazka next. My goodness, what a fight. If he gets Yuri, I think Alex beats him. We'll see. Alex Pereira goes on to fight Yuri Prochazka. He beats Jan Blachowicz by first round knockout. We'll see. I'm really that's a tough fight to pick. Now, on to the main event for the BMF Championship, Dustin the Diamond Poirier, Justin Gaethje. It's a fight which, man, this is kind of how this fight looks for me. The winner of this fight is fighting for the World Championship. The loser's done. That's kind of how I see it. We'll see. But Gaethje's openly said he's got one more title run left in him. And if there's no pathway for the World Championship anymore, he's done. if he loses to Poirier, is there really a pathway to the championship anymore? And there probably is. So maybe one hang it up, but it's going to be a tough pathway back. And it's going to be a long road back for Gaethje if he cannot beat Poirier. For Dustin, same thing, right? I mean, he's coming off a win over Michael Chandler. That's great. You lose to Gaethje, where does that put you? In a fight against Rafael Fiziev? In a fight against Arman Tsarukyan? Like, they're tough fighters, and they're up-and-coming guys. It's the new wave of the weight class, right? A fight against Mateus Gamrot? Like, they're tough guys. So the winner of this fight, again, I think it's the winner of Oliveira and Makhachev. The loser puts himself in a really tough opportunity to get back to the spot. And also, maybe that's it. And you also win the BMF Championship. Sure, who cares, right? It's a rematch of their original fight back at UFC on Fox 29. It was Justin Gaethje's second loss. It's a main event in Glendale, Arizona. Dustin Poirier finished Justin Gaethje in absolute war. It's a 4th round TKO or knockout victory for Dustin Poirier over Justin Gaethje. Since that, Poirier has beat Eddie Alvarez, won an interim championship over Max Holloway, lost to Habib Nurmagomedov, beat Dan Hooker, beat Conor McGregor twice, lose to Charles Oliveira for the World Championship, and then beat Michael Chandler in a crazy fight at UFC 281. What has Justin Gaethje done since that fight against Poirier? Well, beat James Vick, beat Edson Barbosa, beat Cowboy, beat Tony Ferguson, lost to Habib Nurmagomedov for the World Championship, beat Michael Chandler in one of the greatest fights of all time, lost Charles Oliveira for the World Championship, and most recently beat Rafael Fiziev by majority decision in London, England, to now give him the chance to fight Dustin Poirier for the BMF Championship. A lot has changed since that first fight. Like, these guys are so much better now. I mean, that fight was 5 years ago. Over 5 years ago, that fight was. So much has changed. Gaethje, you know what he's going to bring. You know what Dustin's going to bring. I mean, it's just going to be a barn burner. That's the only way I can say it, really. Like, both these guys have power. I would say the slight power advantage goes to Justin Gaethje. The wrestling and grappling advantage goes to Dustin Poirier. Will Poirier look to wrestle? He did it in the first fight, and not many guys will look to wrestle Gaethje because Gaethje just doesn't show his defensive wrestling. He doesn't show his wrestling as a whole. I mean, hell, he took down Rafael Fiziev once in their fight in March. But will Poirier look to take him down? I don't know. Or will Poirier look to get this fight on the ground? I don't know. Because that's how he beat Michael Chandler. But he wasn't the one engaging in a grappling game. Chandler was the one taking down Poirier, and Chandler eventually got finished on the ground by Poirier. That was a good fight. It really was. I mean, that third round, the winner of that third round was going to win the fight. Really fun fight with Chandler and Poirier. Michael Chandler is probably the most entertaining guy, I think, in the entire UFC. Like, Gaethje might be number 2, but I think Michael Chandler, if you're looking for pure entertainment, go watch Michael Chandler fights. Michael Chandler is the most fun guy to watch in the UFC. I hope he is rewarded with that Conor McGregor fight because he deserves it. I don't care he's 2-3 in the UFC. He deserves a fun fight like that. He does not deserve having to go fight, like, Tsarukyan instead, right? Like, that's why I was saying, if Chandler doesn't get the Conor fight, reward that man with the title fight. I don't care. Just give him the title fight. If Oliveira couldn't fight Makhachev, just give Chandler the title fight. He deserves it because of, putting up with Conor's crap, too, on the Ultimate Fighter, whatever. Hey, good for Conor. He won one fight on the Ultimate Fighter. But Poirier Gaethje is just the best fight you could make between two of the best guys in the world. It's just going to be a war. Gaethje's got the power advantage, I would say. But Poirier's got an all-around striking advantage, too. Gaethje's good, but I think Poirier's the better technical striker. But that's not going to matter. I think, Gaethje recently has, the Charles fight was interesting because he kind of just went out there and just tried to knock him out with every single punch he threw, which kind of is what Gaethje does. But I think this will be kind of just a war. This is gonna remind you, I think, of the Gaethje pre-James Vick fights. James Vick fight. It will be like his first 3 fights in the UFC against Johnson, Alvarez, and Poirier. It's gonna be like one of those again. And it's gonna be just back and forth. Like, Gaethje's just gonna try to kick the ever living hell out of Poirier's legs. Poirier is gonna respond. This is gonna be just damage, man. This is gonna be chaos. That's how this fight's gonna go. It's gonna be whoever breaks first. Because the first time around, Poirier got Gaethje. Can Gaethje get Dustin now? I don't know. I really don't know. Both these guys, 34 years old. They're in the prime of their careers. 2 of the most vicious guys you are going to see in the octagon. I don't see wrestling playing a huge factor in this fight because this is being billed as the BMF Championship, and they're going to play into it. I mean, this is kind of just looking at Dustin here, but Dustin really doesn't wrestle all that often. He can, but he did against Chandler. He did against Conor, but again, get your money, man, right? In a legacy type fight like this is, for the BMF Championship, 2 strikers, here we go, they're going to stand and bang. Who gets it done? I think Justin Gaethje does. Don't think Gaethje's done. You look at the Fiziev fight, nobody wanted to fight Rafael Fiziev. Nobody did. Rafael Fiziev is so good. This is a guy who was undefeated in the UFC. If you disregard the Magomed Mustafayev fight back in 2019, he was on a 6-fight winning streak in the UFC. Nobody wants to fight this guy. Gaethje's like a plus, 200 underdog, give or take. He comes out there, he still wins. Fiziev was a huge favorite in that one. Gaethje outstrikes him, and it's a classic Justin Gaethje fight. After dropping, dropping the title fight to Oliveira, he comes back and he wins. Yeah, give me Justin. Give me Justin Gaethje. I still think the highlight gets it done in the craziest type of fight you can ask for. Justin Gaethje eventually breaks Dustin Poirier, something that has been tough because Poirier really doesn't get broken in the octagon. Gaethje doesn't really either. We've seen it before because Poirier did it the first time. I think Gaethje exacts his revenge as the underdog. Justin Gaethje gets revenge against Dustin Poirier. He will finish Poirier, and it will be ever so similar to the first fight. Justin Gaethje finishes Dustin Poirier in the 4th round to become the BMF champion, and more importantly, by far, he gets his chance now at a world championship shot against the winner of Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira. So it can be Justin Gaethje to win in the main event over Dustin Poirier to become the BMF champion in the rematch of their all-time fight 5 years ago. So folks, thank you all for watching our UFC 291 predictions here on the channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. We'll be back next week for that UFC Nashville card with now no more Umar Nurmagomedov in the main event. Instead, we have got Corey Sandhagen taking on a Rob Font, catch weight 140. And then, of course, we'll have Bellator tomorrow night and the PFL next week as well. So folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. And folks, thank you all for watching. And Mamba forever.